The chamber was unusually tense that morning. Reporters lined the walls, cameras poised, and murmurs floated through the air like static before a lightning strike. The topic was oversight, a routine hearing on ethical conduct and government spending. But everyone knew it was about to become something else entirely. Marjorie Taylor Greene sat forward, lips pressed tight, her eyes darting toward Jasmine Crockett across the aisle. Greene's papers were stacked in front of her, though no one expected her to use them much. Words, not documents, were her weapon. Crockett, calm and composed, flipped through her notes slowly. She'd seen that look before. The spark of provocation before a political storm. But she also knew what Greene didn't, that she was ready. The chair gavelled the room to order. The committee will come to order. We are here to discuss. Greene cut in. We are here to discuss how the American people are sick and tired of Democrats wasting taxpayer money on witch hunts and cover-ups. Gasps rippled across the room. Cameras zoomed in. It had begun. Crockett looked up from her notes unamused. With all due respect, she said slowly, her tone razor-sharp but controlled, we're here to discuss facts, not fantasies. So let's make sure we stick to reality this time. Greene smirked. Reality. The reality is that this administration is corrupt, and people like you defend it because you benefit from the chaos. A murmur of approval rose from Greene's corner. But Crockett didn't flinch. She leaned forward slightly, folding her hands. Congresswoman Greene, she began, her voice measured, I defend truth. And the truth is, what you call chaos is actually accountability, something you seem allergic to. The room chuckled softly. Greene's smirk faltered. She pushed back in her chair, ready to pounce. You know what's funny? Every time Democrats get caught doing something shady, you start preaching about accountability. You sound like a lawyer trying to defend a client who's already guilty. Crockett smiled thinly. That's rich coming from someone who confuses conspiracy theories with evidence. But please, enlighten us. What exactly are you accusing anyone of this time? The silence that followed was loud. Greene's eyes flicked to her papers, then back to Crockett. Oh, I don't need papers to see what's right in front of me. We've got a border crisis, inflation out of control, and a White House that treats Congress like a joke. You think the people don't notice? Crockett nodded slowly. They notice plenty. They notice when members of Congress turn serious issues into political theater. They notice who's working and who's performing. The word performing hit its mark. Greene's jaw clenched. Don't you lecture me about performance, Miss Crockett. You love those viral clips where you get all dramatic for the cameras. You think shouting facts makes you right. Crockett's tone cooled to ice. I don't need to shout to be right. I use evidence. I use law. You use noise. The chair cleared his throat, uneasy. Ladies. But neither lady was listening. Greene leaned in. Evidence. You call selective leaks and biased committees evidence. The American people aren't stupid. They see the double standards. If a Republican did half the things your side's done, you'd be calling for jail time. Crockett's eyebrow arched. Half the things my side's done. Like supporting democracy? Maybe. Or believing in equal rights. Because if that's the crime, then I'll plead guilty every time. The audience, staffers, journalists, and aides, couldn't hold back a murmur of laughter and whispers. Greene slammed her palm lightly on the table. You twist everything into race and drama. This is about integrity. And integrity, Crockett shot back, means not spreading lies for attention. Integrity means showing up to legislate, not instigate. That word, instigate, hung in the air like a bell tolling. Greene leaned back, arms crossed. You can't handle strong voices, can you? You think being loud means being wrong. Crockett didn't blink. No, I think being loud without logic means being lost. The chamber broke into a low rumble, laughter, gasps, and scribbling pens. The chair raised his gavel again. Order, please. But the energy had already shifted. The two women weren't just arguing. They were circling each other like prize-fighters. Every word, every pause was a jab. Greene tilted her head. You talk about logic, but your logic is what got this country into chaos. Crime's up, borders are broken, and you call it progress. You're destroying America from the inside out. Crockett's tone softened, but her words cut deeper. No, Congresswoman. What's destroying America is people who think shouting the loudest makes them patriots. Real patriots fix problems. They don't exploit them. For a second, Greene hesitated, just a flicker. But it was enough for Crockett to press forward. You keep talking about the American people, she said. Let's be real. You mean the ones who agree with you. Because when people of color, or young voters, or women speak up, you call it woke nonsense. You don't want unity. You want obedience. The room went silent. The weight of that accusation landed heavy. Greene's lips parted, searching for a retort. You think you can sit there and question my patriotism? She finally snapped. I love this country. I'm sure you do, Crockett said quietly. But sometimes loving your country means telling it the truth, not feeding it lies just because they sell. The clock ticked. The chair rubbed his forehead. The audience knew this wasn't ending anytime soon. Greene gathered herself and tried a different tack. You're great with speeches, I'll give you that. But speeches don't lower gas prices or secure the border. And tantrums don't pass bills, Crockett replied swiftly. Even the chair cracked a reluctant smile. The chamber buzzed again, tension thick but electric. It wasn't just politics anymore. It was personal. Greene leaned in once more, her voice rising. You can mock me all you want, but people listen to me. They believe in what I say. Crockett met her stare, calm as ever. People used to believe the earth was flat too. Doesn't make it true. Gasps, Lauder. A camera flash burst across the aisle. The chair sighed. Order, the committee will maintain decorum or we'll have to adjourn. But Crockett wasn't done yet. You keep saying you speak for the people. Maybe it's time you start listening to them instead. A Greene rose slightly from her seat. Don't lecture me about listening. I've been listening to Americans who are tired of elites like you telling them how to think. Crockett's reply was instant. Then maybe stop talking long enough to hear something other than your own echo. The chamber erupted. Even some on Greene's side couldn't hide their reactions. The chair's gavel pounded, but it was useless. The moment had already gone viral in real time. 2 women, 1 chamber, and the storm had only just begun. The hearing resumed after a short recess, but the tension hadn't cooled, it had only condensed. Everyone in the chamber could feel it, thick as humidity before a thunderclap. Marjorie Taylor Greene sat stiffly, arms folded, a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. Jasmine Crockett, on the other hand, appeared unbothered, poised, collected, and clearly ready for round 2. When the chair gave the floor again, Greene wasted no time. You know, Congresswoman Crockett, she began, her southern accent sharpening. You keep saying you care about the truth. But I've noticed your truth changes depending on who's in trouble. Isn't that convenient? Crockett turned a page in her notes slowly. Convenient, she echoed, is pretending outrage while ignoring facts. So let's actually talk about what's real, shall we? Greene leaned forward, smirking. Oh, I'm ready. Let's go. Crockett nodded once. All right then. You've accused members of this administration of corruption. Can you present one, just one, verified, documented case that supports your claim? The silence stretched. Greene blinked. We've got reports, whistleblowers. Crockett cut in smoothly. Unverified claims, anonymous sources, no documentation. You call that evidence? Greene frowned. You Democrats love hiding behind red tape and paperwork. The American people don't need documents to know when they're being lied to. Crockett tilted her head, her voice calm but razor-edged. Actually, that's exactly what they need. Documents. Facts. Because that's what separates justice from gossip. The air shifted. Some staffers tried not to smirk. The chair cleared his throat again. But even he seemed reluctant to interrupt. Greene pressed on, her tone rising. You can sit there with your legal jargon, but people are losing their jobs, their homes, and their faith in government. And all you do is play semantics? Crockett looked directly at her. If words matter less than feelings, Congresswoman, then we've lost the foundation of democracy. Facts aren't semantics, they're survival. A low murmur rippled through the audience. Greene exhaled, clearly irritated, but forced a smile. You think sounding smart makes you right. You think quoting law books makes you moral. Crockett smiled faintly. No. I think understanding the law makes me responsible. There's a difference. Greene straightened, her voice cutting sharper. You love playing the role of the righteous reformer. But let's be honest, you're as political as the rest of us. You know how this game works. Crockett didn't deny it. You're right. Politics is a game, one that decides whether people eat, work, or survive. The difference is, I play to help them. You play to headline. Greene's chair creaked as she leaned forward. Headline. You mean like your viral clips where you destroy people? You think shouting someone down makes you a hero? Crockett didn't blink. No, but standing up to bullies sometimes does. The room went still. Greene opened her mouth, but no words came for a moment. Her eyes narrowed. You're calling me a bully? Crockett didn't flinch. If you walk like one, talk like one, and target people for attention. Yes. The chamber exploded with whispers and scribbling pens. Greene clenched her jaw. You love to play victim. The minute someone challenges you, you cry targeted. Maybe you just can't handle pushback. Crockett folded her hands, voice steady. I handle facts, not tantrums. And what you call pushback is really projection. The chair tried to interject, but the exchange had become magnetic, unstoppable. Crockett continued, flipping open a folder. You talk about integrity and transparency. Let's revisit your own record. On May 14th, you publicly claimed you had irrefutable evidence of misuse of funds. Yet months later, no report, no document, no source. Where is it? Greene blinked rapidly, caught off guard. We're still investigating. So it doesn't exist yet. Crockett finished. Thank you for confirming. The audience murmured again, this time louder. Greene's expression darkened. You think you're slick, but you're twisting everything. We have information coming in, and just because I don't parade it around for you doesn't mean it's not real. Crockett leaned in slightly. Congresswoman, if evidence only exists in your imagination, it's not real. It's rhetoric. Even the chair's gavel couldn't silence the laughter that broke out in the back rows. Greene shot them a glare that could cut glass. You love mocking people who don't agree with you, she snapped. That's why Americans are sick of your side, arrogant, dismissive and disconnected. Crockett nodded slowly. And they're sick of leaders who mistake volume for value. The pause that followed was heavy, electric. Greene's lips pressed tight. She reached for her water, her movements sharper than necessary. Crockett turned back to the chair. Mr. Chair, I think we've just demonstrated why this hearing matters. The American people deserve leaders who argue with evidence, not emotion. Greene's voice cracked through like lightning. Don't you dare talk about emotion like it's a weakness. Emotion is passion. It's what drives us. Crockett turned to her, eyes steady. Passion without principle is chaos. Greene's face flushed. You love your little sound bites, don't you? You've got them rehearsed, all ready to go viral. Crockett smiled slightly. No, I just don't need to rehearse the truth. The chair sighed, looking between them, knowing full well this wasn't over. Ladies, if we can return to the actual subject of oversight. But Greene wasn't done. Oversight? You want oversight? Let's start with the billions sent overseas while our veterans sleep on the streets. Crockett's expression didn't change. And yet, you voted against every bill that would fund those very programs. Should I pull up the record? Greene froze. That's not the point. Oh, I think it's exactly the point, Crockett replied. You can't preach about patriotism while voting against its practice. A low hum of approval rose across the chamber. Greene's knuckles whitened around her pen. You twist everything into your narrative, Greene said through clenched teeth. You think you're the hero, but you're just another politician pretending to save people while lining your own side's pockets. Crockett tilted her head. If holding people accountable makes me a villain in your story, I can live with that. There it was, the line that seemed to seal the round. Greene stared for a moment, speechless, then gathered her notes with abrupt movements. The chair tried again. Let's stay on track. Congresswoman Crockett, please conclude your response. Crockett looked directly ahead, her voice lowering just enough to draw everyone in. The truth isn't left or right, Mr. Chair. It's not red or blue, it's consistent. And when consistency threatens power, people start calling it bias. But the record, doesn't lie. The cameras clicked like rain. Greene tapped her pen against the table, her glare fixed on Crockett. This isn't over, she said quietly, almost to herself. Crockett turned slightly toward her, offering a polite smile that didn't hide the fire beneath. It never is. Truth keeps coming back. The chair's gavel fell. Recess. 10 minutes. The audience exhaled as if released from a held breath. Eyes rushed to corners, reporters began their whispers, and social media was already exploding with clips. On screen, two women sat under the same light, one seething, one serene. Two versions of America. Two visions of truth, and neither one ready to back down. The air in the chamber was heavier now. The short recess had done little to cool tempers. Greene returned with renewed purpose, her aides whispering last-minute notes. Crockett sat calm, her pen resting on a folder already filled with citations and records. The chair called the hearing back to order. Greene was first to speak. "I'm not here to trade clever insults," she began, her voice sharp. "I'm here to remind everyone that the people outside this building are hurting. They're tired of being ignored by elites who think rules only apply to others." Crockett didn't look up, though a faint smile crossed her face. Greene pressed on. "Congresswoman Crockett, you call yourself a champion for justice, but what have you done for the small towns watching factories close? For the single moms who can't buy groceries? All you offer are speeches, loud ones." Crockett finally raised her head. "You're right about one thing, Congresswoman. People are tired of politicians who use their pain as a prop." The crowd murmured. Greene's jaw tightened. "You call it a prop, I call it real America. Maybe if you spent less time chasing headlines you'd see that." Crockett leaned forward. "Real America deserves truth. You've made them believe that shouting about corruption is the same as solving it. That's manipulation, not leadership." Greene snapped. "You think you're better because you use big words and legal terms. The people I represent don't care about your fancy degrees. They care about results." Crockett's tone was cool. "Results come from policy, not publicity. You had chances to vote for infrastructure, for healthcare expansion, for relief, and you said no every time. That's your record, not mine." A hush fell. Greene fired back. "You twist every vote!" "Sometimes no means standing for principle." Crockett nodded. "Then maybe your principle should start with consistency." Greene slammed her hand lightly on the table. "You love catching people in word traps. That's what lawyers do. But you can't catch someone who's honest." Crockett opened a folder. "Honest, let's check." She read, "On April 2nd, you said foreign aid should be audited. Yet, on April 7th you voted to block the audit amendment proposed by your own party. So, which Marjorie Taylor Greene are we talking to today?" Gasps. Greene's eyes widened, then narrowed. "That amendment was flawed," Crockett interrupted softly. "Or inconvenient." The crowd buzzed. Greene stood. "You love this circus, don't you?" "You're feeding off it." Crockett stayed seated. "No, Congresswoman. I just refuse to be silenced by noise." Greene's voice rose. "You think you can lecture me about silence when your side censors anyone who disagrees? You're the party of cancel culture and hypocrisy." Crockett met her gaze. "Correction. I'm the party of accountability. If the truth cancels a lie, that's not censorship. That's consequence." The chamber broke into applause before the chair's gavel restored order. Greene leaned forward, eyes blazing. "You can twist my words all you want. I'm not afraid of you." Crockett replied evenly, "Good. Because truth isn't afraid of anything either." For a long moment, the two women stared at each other across the table, conviction against fury. Then Greene spoke again, quieter but sharper. "You love making this about me. Maybe because if people looked too closely at your record, they'd see the same hypocrisy." Crockett's lips curved slightly. "Please do look. I post every vote, every hearing, every receipt. Transparency doesn't scare me." Greene exhaled hard. "You've got an answer for everything." Crockett nodded once. "Because I deal in evidence, not emotion." The chair glanced between them, then motioned for closing remarks. Greene seized the chance. "I'll say this," she declared, voice rising to fill the room. "Maybe I'm rough around the edges, but at least I'm real. I speak the truth people feel, not the version polished for press releases." Crockett's response was calm but cutting. "Feeling truth isn't the same as telling it. Leadership means turning emotion into action, not outrage." Greene shook her head. "You just don't get it. You think politics is about being right. It's about representing people." Crockett's eyes softened slightly. "Representation without responsibility isn't service, it's self-promotion." The words landed hard. Greene hesitated, just for a breath. The room waited. Then, as if on cue, she regained her footing. "You can stand there pretending you're pure, but history won't remember your speeches. It'll remember who fought." Crockett leaned forward one last time. "Then I hope it remembers who fought for the people, not over them." The chair's gavel fell again. "We will resume final statements after recess." Reporters flooded the hall as aides rushed to the exits. The hearing had spiraled past politics and into something raw, belief clashing with denial, restraint against defiance. Two women, neither backing down. But the tide of the room was shifting. Facts were starting to outweigh fury. The chamber doors opened once again, and the crowd poured back in, The atmosphere had changed. The whispers were different now, no longer about tension, but about momentum. Jasmine Crockett had gone from defense to command, and everyone knew it. Greene returned to her seat with fresh notes, jaw tight, expression unreadable. Crockett flipped calmly through her binder, her face a portrait of poise. The chair called for order. Final statements, he announced. Each member will have 5 minutes. Greene stood first. 5 minutes, she repeated, almost to herself. That's all I need. She straightened her blazer and stepped forward, voice cutting through the room. Let me remind everyone here. I don't care how many viral moments or applause lines you rack up. I care about the people who can't afford rent. The mothers who can't find formula. The veterans forgotten by this government. She paused, scanning the room. You can quote your laws and flash your documents, but that doesn't fix a single broken family. My anger isn't for show, it's for them. The audience nodded softly. It was a rare moment of stillness. Even Crockett listened. Eyes steady, Greene's tone softened, but only slightly. You call me divisive, she continued. But division comes from leaders who talk down to Americans instead of talking to them. That's why I speak loud, because nobody listens otherwise. The chair motioned for her to wrap up. Greene pointed across the aisle. So Miss Crockett, keep your fancy quotes and clever lines. I'll keep standing up for the people who feel invisible. That's what I was sent here to do. She sat down abruptly. Cameras flashed. It was raw, defiant, and desperate. Crockett waited for the noise to settle before rising. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Her composure drew the attention that shouting never could. Congresswoman Greene, she began evenly. You're right about one thing. People are tired. They're tired of feeling invisible. But they're not invisible because of laws. They're invisible because too many leaders prefer headlines over hard work. The chamber hushed. Crockett continued. You speak of mothers who can't afford formula. Yet you voted against funding that would make it accessible. You talk about veterans, but you blocked the bill to expand their health care. Those are facts, not feelings. And facts are what change lives. Greene stared straight ahead, unblinking. Crockett took a breath. We can't fix anything if truth becomes optional. You talk about being real, let's be real. Real means owning your words. Real means when you promise the people something, you deliver it, not blame someone else when it fails. She paused, letting the silence carry the weight. You say you shout because no one listens. Maybe no one listens because they've learned your volume never leads to value. The crowd stirred. A wave of quiet nods and murmured agreement. Greene clenched her jaw but said nothing. Crockett stepped forward slightly. I didn't come here to trade insults. I came to remind this body, and the nation watching, that leadership is not theater. It's sacrifice, it's accountability. It's knowing when to stop talking and start doing. She lifted one of her folders and tapped it gently. Every time someone spreads a lie, it forces the truth to work harder. And I'm fine with that, because truth always shows up. The chair looked almost relieved as Crockett continued, her tone firm but deliberate. We can disagree on policy. We can argue on process. But the moment we stop agreeing on reality, democracy starts to die quietly. I won't let that happen. Not on my watch. There was no anger in her voice, only conviction. Crockett turned toward Greene again, her tone softening. You say you fight for the forgotten, so do I. But fighting for them means building something, not just breaking it down. It means lifting people up, not lighting fires around them. Greene looked down at her papers. The words she had prepared no longer seemed useful. Crockett stepped back from the microphone. And to the people watching, remember this loudness is not leadership. Leadership listens, learns, and leads with courage, not chaos. The chair began to speak, but applause broke out before he could. It started quietly, a few claps from the back rows, then spread until the entire chamber erupted in sound. Some stood, others simply nodded, eyes fixed on the woman who had just turned a shouting match into a statement of principle. Greene sat frozen. For the first time that day she had no retort. The cameras caught it, that single frame where silence said more than words ever could. When the gavel finally fell, the chair's voice barely carried over the noise. The hearing stands adjourned. Reporters sprinted toward the exits, microphones raised, phones buzzing with live feeds. Outside, the story was already spreading. Crockett silences Greene and fiery chamber clash. Inside, Greene gathered her notes slowly. Crockett approached, not to gloat, but to extend a hand. Marjorie, she said quietly, you have passion. Use it to build something that lasts. For a second, Greene looked at the hand, then at Crockett, before giving a small nod. No words, just acknowledgement. As Crockett turned to leave, aides trailed behind her, whispering excitedly. But she didn't smile. She knew the fight wasn't over. It never really was. Outside, the crowd waited. Reporters, supporters, skeptics, all pressing in. Crockett stopped at the podium, cameras flashing. "What happened today," she said, "wasn't about winning or losing. It was about truth having a voice in the room. And I plan to keep giving it one." Then she walked away, leaving the echo of her words behind, steady, powerful, and undeniable. In that echo was a message that stretched beyond walls or politics, that even when noise fills the air, truth will find a way to speak. And in that chamber, on that day, it had spoken loudly, through calm, through clarity, through Jasmine Crockett.